Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter and joining me as always is Tara. We are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 3 Episode 2. It is called Disengage. So full spoilers for the episode as always.
Clever title.
Sure. Last episode we left off with the ship appearing and Picard and Riker being with this young Jack who's claiming to be Beverly's son. This episode has a quick flashback showing you what Jack was up to a couple of weeks ago, but by and large we come back to this standoff, this what are we going to do now? This big ship's here to try and do something. Obviously as the episode goes on we find out it's to take Jack. There's a bounty on his head. We get into all that stuff. So Tara, what did you make of episode 2?
I didn't like it as much as the last one, but I do still think it's pretty good. Definitely love Riker in the show. The story, I'm still like holding out to see where it goes before I decide if I like it or not. But it ends pretty strong. Pretty good ending.
Mm-hmm. Remember how last week I said I hope Jack doesn't turn out to be Picard's son? Remember when I said that?
I do.
I mean, I'll say this. At least it didn't drag it out for like 7 or 8 episodes. Like, because I
at least Riker the whole time was just like, come on. Are we not going to talk about it?
I mean, see, as soon as Riker sort of like looks at him funny and then goes, "What, do you not recognize something here, Jean-Luc?" I was like, oh no, they're just going straight to it.
Okay, so I have thoughts. First of all, I'm not convinced that it's his son. I mean, Beverly was kind of out of it, and they both looked at each other like, remember that night we boned? And I don't know if I like this. I just don't know if I like that he and Crusher were a thing. Like, I like that it never happened, you know?
Well, what was funny is that throughout the episode, because they were leaning so heavily into Riker thinking it was Picard's son, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's not now. This is actually convincing me the opposite because they're leaning too much into it. But at the end of the episode, when Picard actually announces, because he's my son, in front of Beverly, her reaction doesn't play to me like he's wrong. It does seem like he's just right. And yeah,
it does, but I'm kind of hoping that, I shouldn't say hoping, because maybe this is a good story. We'll see how it goes. But like, I was kind of I was thinking like, no, like they're just doing this so that like the other Captain Shaw will like help them. You know, have kind of.
It's always a good sign when you have to say maybe this is a good story, but you don't actually know if it's a good story yet. You're just hoping. You're hoping against hope.
I'm hoping.
Yeah,
I like that we get Worf.
Yeah, see the moment at the end when she comes out of the bridge and Picard pauses before he like gives his justification for what he's doing. I saw a neat thing on Twitter. This is actually an intentional like moment from Encounter at Farpoint where he paused in that episode when she steps onto the bridge, and it makes him reconsider what he's about to say. So
with the Wesley thing.
Yeah. So it's okay. This is a reference to that. I will say so. Last week, I wasn't as into Shaw as a character, not because I didn't necessarily like the way it was challenging our main characters, but more just how he was presented, because he was really cartoony with the steak eating and all that stuff. I liked him more this week because they toned that down a little bit. There's a problem with his character, though. It's not necessarily his character's fault, but it's a problem around his character. Is that because they write him to feel so antagonistic with the way he's saying things, it's like they're trying to make his side with Picard, but the problem with this episode is that the entire episode I'm like, no, Picard's wrong. Like, Shaw's right. Like, when Seven's...
Well, that's the thing. Like, he is right, but he's presenting it in a dickish way to where you're just like, but we want to side with Picard.
But that's what would make it more interesting, though. If he's presented it in a way that was coolly diplomatic and Picard had to just accept that it was right, that I think that would be more interesting because he couldn't, but because it wants the audience to side with Picard, so it's presenting him like he's been a dickbag the whole time. But when Seven's arguing and he's saying, no, we're not risking the ship and the crew for 2 people, he's right. Later on, when he's presenting his reasons to Picard and Seven, he's right. Did Seven break the rules? He's right. He's constantly right. That at the end of the episode when Picard like says, belay that order, Admiral's order, and he starts barking out orders, my reaction to that was, wait, you're retired. How you can't just give out orders like this? Why is Shaw following what you're saying? Why is Shaw falling into line? I don't understand.
Well, he doesn't, right? He doesn't until Picard says, because he's my son. And then there's just a bit of humanity in Shaw where he's like, screw it, fine. We'll get your son.
That felt worse to me, though. That felt like nepotism. We're putting the entire ship and crew at risk because Picard wants to protect his son. It felt like he's doing this for a personal reason. Yeah, that made me dislike Picard.
It'd be a pretty dick move, first of all, to let Picard and Riker die because they are legends, as they're referred to. But then also to be like, I'm going to have to tell my crew in front of like everybody who follows me that I'm going to let the legend's son die. You know, that's not going to be a good look.
I mean, you're telling me this, but I don't think the episode convinces me of any of this. I don't think this episode convinces me that Shaw was ever convinced to do anything. See, when he popped in to save them earlier on after he said he wasn't going to, I didn't buy that he made that choice.
I wish that there was more of, because, you know, I know the character of 7 and 9 pretty well from watching Voyager, and I've been, you know, dipping my toes back into Voyager recently, just background noise. And like the early 7 definitely would have had the same mindset as Shaw, where it's just like, yeah, obviously we would not risk the lives of 500 for 2 people, which is not really a Star Trek thing anyway, though, right? Like Star Trek would definitely risk the lives. Like that's why everyone joins Starfleet, just to be heroes. So of course they would do that. But she would have to be convinced of that, right? Because she had the brain of a Borg who's just all logic and numbers and stuff like that. So I feel like 7 should at least be able to understand why he would say that. Like that is obviously the cold hard logical decision, but that's not the Starfleet way. So she would, I feel like there would be more of a discussion back and forth.
Anyway. Every decision Picard made in this episode, and it got worse as the episode went on, it just kind of felt more and more like, to me, he was just getting away with things because he's the main character and not because I believe why he's getting to make these decisions. Don't get me wrong, I think the actual moment where Beverly walks in and he pauses is well handled as a moment. It is. It's a well handled moment, but I don't know. I felt really conflicted about everything with all that stuff. Otherwise, we have the villain, who's Amanda Plummer from Pulp Fiction, who's just like chewing scenery in her captain's chair.
Also, the daughter of Christopher Plummer, who played one of the best Star Trek villains of all time.
This is true. More nepotism. More nepotism. By the way, I think there was a comment in last episode that pointed out that young LaForge here is not LeVar Burton's daughter. It's his other daughter that's played by LeVar Burton's actual daughter. Or something. There was something like that. There was a comment like that.
Oh, I thought it was the actual daughter because I feel like I've seen her in a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff. Hey, like she's been in like the entertainment business and stuff.
It was one comment. They could be full of shit for all I know. No offense to the commenter.
I mean, you did look up her name and she didn't have.
She didn't have Burton as a name, but I mean there could be reasons for that.
Yeah, maybe I am wrong. I thought it was his daughter.
Yeah, I just thought of that because I yelled nepotism at you. So it popped out in my head.
Yeah, okay, maybe I'm wrong then.
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, Picard probably felt the most Picard when he was talking to Jack when he was in the brig. That was probably the most I've felt in a while that he's even sounded like Picard from the original show. Because most of the time in this show, he doesn't.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I actually think that Jack reminds me of young Picard quite a bit. Like, you know, you've watched the episode Tapestry. So, you know, like Picard was kind of like, was more of a Kirk when he was younger.
When he was in the academy and he was getting into fights and stuff.
Yeah. So he does kind of remind me of, like, he's playing him kind of like that actor did. I
think the other problem with him being Picard's kid, as much as I said I liked that them running off to like steal a starship was kind of, you know, search for Spocky. I did sort of like during this one go, I mean, this is going to feel really Wrath of Khan. Like the more they're putting the pieces in place, the more this is feeling like their version of Wrath of Khan.
I mean, they're going into a submarine battle, right? When they go into the nebula.
Yeah. Well, that's how this episode ends. Yeah, they're going to try and outwit Plummer. Yeah,
it is really nice to have like a movie actress in this. because I think she's great. Like, I think when a plumber's on the screen, you're like, okay, yeah, like she's really pulling it off. Like she's pulling off like the crazy psycho laughter in a way that, like, you know, if I don't know, Michelle Hurd did it or something, I'd be like, no, you just acted.
It's funny it's funny you pick her, because I thought her performance in this episode was rather
Yeah, she's always been kind of middling. Like, I like her character and all, but like,
I mean,
I don't know, the acting's just been fine.
Her character's plot this season so far, though, has been, like, obviously at the very end of this episode, there's something.
It gets pretty interesting.
There's something that comes in and saves it, but the thing that comes in and saves it is a different character that we're happy to see. Like, her plot this episode was even worse than last episode, where she's talking to her handler. We're talking about Rafi, just in case no one knows who Michelle Hurd is. she's Rafi. And then it's her back in the same, like, back alley streets of that planet, talking to people, and she's like giving like a monologue to her ex-husband about making contact with some Ferengi. It's her talking to there's a lot of monologues, and she's like breaking down into, and you know, I really rolled my eyes when it's like, oh, prove you're not with Starfleet anymore. Take some of these like narcotics that you are addicted to, or were addicted to.
Classic drug dealer movie moment.
Yeah, it felt like such a cliche moment, and I'm just like, oh, are we really doing this? Like, I had
surely
this.
Starfleet has like antidotes that they could take or something.
I had to go back and watch the scene with the husband again, because I realized at the end of it that I stopped paying attention and missed most of it. So I had to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, he kind of gives her an unfair ultimatum, like, don't save Starfleet or go see your son.
Well,
like,
I think the problem
that's kind of
with
a dick move.
her scenes is that they don't really amount to much in this season particularly, but they're also very overwritten. So like that scene with the husband especially, there was just so much talking about their past, and like it was like, we're going to like bring up everything in this scene, even though it feels really forced and contrived to actually mention all this stuff.
Honestly, like, I think the only reason Rafi is in season 3 is because they realized they wrote a character without a complete arc yet. And so I think that's the only reason she's still around. It's because they don't want to leave an unsatisfying arc for her, you know?
Yeah.
Especially if they're bringing Seven back for the 3rd season.
Like, don't get me wrong.
She's going to have to reunite with her son or her grandkid or something.
I appreciated we got like gangster Ferengi. That was mildly amusing.
Sneed.
Yeah. And obviously Worf's introduction is like, they played the Klingon music from the movies. That was a cool touch.
Yeah, I love that. I love the music. Also, when you get the ship, they play the Romulan theme song.
Yeah,
I thought was interesting.
I think that's the problem though. Is like, I'm saying, yeah, obviously I perked up when Worf showed up and he looks cool. I do think it's weird that we have now 2 decapitations in this show, which is very on Star Trek. Remember, what's his name?
But if you're going to use a batleth, like, it is the obvious move, right?
What was the young Romulan's name?
From what? Oh,
this show.
Elnor?
Elnor, yeah, he decapitated someone. I was trying to remember who the decapitated.
Yeah, that's true.
He did the other one. I just like, but the problem with this is like, yeah, it's like I'm excited because it's Worf and there's music I recognize. So again, it's kind of the remember these things you like. Remember, isn't it cool that they've popped up? I think the actual story and the writing is still pretty rough. Although bizarrely, my turnabout from last week is that Shaw may actually be one of the more interesting characters, just because. Like, I'm almost sympathizing with him because Picard and Riker are putting him in these awful positions and he doesn't really deserve it, even though he's a bit of a prick.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dick captain. There's bound to be them because they become dick admirals. So
no, that's the point though. Picard's the dick admiral in this show.
Yeah,
that's
good. That's very Star Trek motion picture.
He's the dick admiral in that scene at the end because he pulls rank, even though I'm not sure he should be able to because he's retired. But whatever. I mean, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs.
I don't know. He field commissioned Seven, and now she's a commander on the ship. So, okay.
But hey, it was kind of nice when Amanda Plummer threw the ship into the Titan. that was a neat moment, I suppose.
Well, Shaw is the one that like separated them too by like warping right into them. Basically, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't understand why that wouldn't have always been a a thing you can do with a tractor beam anyway. Like if you throw a ship, because it doesn't like take any force in space to throw something.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there might just be a little confusion though, because like I know why you're saying that, because they say right before she does that there's something experimental in their weapons bay or something like that. I'm not so sure this tractor beam throw thing was what they were talking about, because I agree.
I don't think so either.
Because this feels like something, you could just do if you've got a tractor beam. Yeah.
They just like, no one has ever had the gall to do that before.
Joel say it was kind of bugging me this episode a little bit, and this is something that's been true in general, but I think it's a problem on Picard specifically because it's set after Next Gen, and because we're spending time on an actual starship, the Titan, this season, is that why is everything so like dark, like everywhere? Like it's all these like,
except for the fluorescent bulbs.
Yeah, these low light rooms, but with just the bright bulbs, and it's just like, I don't know. Like
we kind of talked about in the last episode, it was just like I just don't like the look of the new.
But
shows.
I guess I think it bugs me even more because we do have Discovery, we have other shows that can have the more sleek, different looks. So why can't this have the one that feels a bit more retro and looks a bit more like Next Gen? Maybe a bit more advanced because it has been some time, but it would be nice.
Why are the floors so slippery looking?
Yeah, how many outtakes is there of Patrick Stewart slipping and like landing on his arse?
Oh, he can't fall. It's too dangerous.
It's too frail.
Yeah, he's got like gum stuck to his shoes all the time, so not to fall.
He's walking around with the suction cups at the bottom of his shoes, so he can't fall. They spend like thousands of dollars in post just like taking out all the suction noises. There's like that's what it sounds like when he's walking around. They have to do a lot of post-production to get rid of the sound.
Yep. Just added to the COVID costs of keeping Patrick Stewart alive.
What do we think of Jack as a character? Because Jack, I felt the opening scene with him, like, being this smuggler character, it felt a little... It felt like a little derivative of other like sci-fi. Yeah, it was a little bit of Han Solo, a little bit of Pure Quill. It felt like, okay, we're going for this rogue, like lovable, like thief kind of character. I feel like I've seen a lot of this in other sci-fi.
I mean, I do like that he does kind of remind me of young Picard. If that's the angle they're going to play this, then at least that is a thing I can attach to and be like, okay, at least I get it. The strange thing is that Beverly is also apparently like that now.
Apparently she's been like that for like 20 years. Yeah, she's been like helping him do all this smuggling, because it does sound like even though he was doing smuggling, it was to help there was like a plague and a war going on, and they were bringing medical supplies as well as weapons.
Okay, I'm trying to think of like, so if he and Beverly hooked up, I'm trying to think of the timeline of like when this would happen.
Right after Nemesis, given his age, maybe?
You think so?
Maybe in between movies. Maybe before the last one, I don't know.
See, okay. Because the most obvious thing would be the Naked Now, right? Because that's when they really were like, let's bone.
Oh, but that's like season 1.
Yeah, I know. But Beverly disappears for a season.
Well, so you think she dumped him off to like some relatives for 5 years?
Maybe they did, maybe he knew about it and they did it in secret. Maybe he's like, I'm not a family man. This was an accident. We were both under the influence. And she's like, well, I don't want to get rid of it. And he goes, okay, well, can you like go stay with your mother for a year or something?
I'm just laughing because I'm imagining her saying, I don't want to get rid of it. And then Picard going, have you met Wesley?
Well, I'm just trying to think of when this could happen. Like, I think the Naked Now and then her disappearance in season 2 is now incredibly suspect.
I'll tell you what I want. I do want Wesley to show up this season again, just so he can go up and awkwardly hug Jack, and Jack be like, why is this lame man hugging me? Tell me I'm not related to him.
I'm your brother.
I've always wanted a brother.
What's up, nerd? Yeah. I mean, the other thing would be like, Okay, there is an episode where like Picard and Beverly kind of have like their minds are connected and they kind of have like this conversation about why they never pursued anything with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of feel like nothing would have happened before that episode.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, like in the last episode, that scene where Picard's talking to Irish Romulan lady, they specifically put in a couple of lines where he says, "We tried to make it work at one point. We tried to be a couple and it didn't work." That sounded to me like they were retconning that into after the show, after Next Gen sometime.
But they're also old in the movies. Like Beverly wouldn't have had a kid.
Here's okay, but what if it's not a natural conception? What if she's gotten some Picard semen and got a little test tube and
well,
I don't know. But
he seems pretty confident that it's his kid.
That's true.
Like,
so they definitely had sex because
there would have been consent or something at least for it then.
Well, no, I was going to say if he was a clone or something of Picard that she made and she just raised him, then, which is still possible, I think. That said, though, the fact that Picard's very ready to go, yeah, he's my son, means that they definitely got down and dirty at some point, because he's like...
Or he's covering up for him. Or my original theory of, like, he's not his kid, they're just trying to protect him. Because he's important to Beverly. Beverly,
what have you done with all my semen? I trusted you with that. You better keep that safe for me.
Maybe they needed it to fight off some alien virus. It was all a lie.
I don't know, I just imagine Patrick Stewart saying something that silly in his voice and it just makes me laugh.
I'm sure Patrick Stewart would love lines like that.
Oh yeah.
He seems like a really silly guy.
I bet he'd love to play it straight though, like not crack a smile, like very seriously say it.
Leslie Nielsen style.
Yeah, really look into her eyes as he says, "Beverly, what have you done with my semen?"
My seed. I like seed. Seed's less vulgar and funnier.
What have you done with my space seed?
My space seed. That's the con episode. It's called Space
I know. What? That was the joke. Come on, give me some credit here.
Yeah, I didn't think you would know that.
Oh, throw in a Star Trek joke. Look at me.
Look at you.
I'm all smart. Oh dear. Joe, I'll tell you what, when we were in the scene with the Ferengi, I was like, damn, I miss Quark. I want Quark back.
You're watching Deep Space Nine. It's really easy for you to watch him.
I know. It wasn't
just get those reviews out, man.
He wasn't in that episode that I did today though with Connor. He wasn't in it at all. It's the first episode.
Quark's such a good character.
Yeah, Quark and Odo. That's my. I'm only in mid-season 1 so far, but Quark and Odo are definitely my pair.
Something about this water bottle that blurs my camera.
It's very bright. That's what it is. It's grabbing the camera's focus. It's doing its thing.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. I'm not as high on this episode as the first one, but at least it ends on a high. Like, I do love seeing Worf, and he looks like a badass, just like I want him to.
Yeah, he looks good with the gray hair and the beard.
It's like white goatee.
And I think because the makeup's covering up his actual face, he doesn't look like he's aged, other than the white hair.
Yeah, it is I mean, you're bringing back a character that's really well known, so you can't make him look like Discovery Klingons, but it is kind of strange that he does look like Worf.
Yeah, but to be fair, Discovery set before the original series, and they all looked a bit different after the original series and continuity, right?
Oh yeah, I had no problem with the Discovery changing up the Klingons at all, like a lot of people did. Like, I don't know, whatever. Like, we've done this like 3 times already, so it's not a big deal. Yeah. But it's just odd, with the new shows coming out, that Worf doesn't look like them. But that makes sense, because like, why would you change Worf's design?
Well, yeah, but like I was saying though, in continuity, they changed appearance after the original series because there's like a plot point about it, right? So,
yeah.
So it makes sense.
It gets explored in Enterprise, actually.
Yeah.
They have a reason for it.
So that makes sense then that he looks like... Because in theory, though, like they should still look like Worf, like in this timeline, like post Next Gen. Like they should all still look like Worf does. So as long as no other Klingons show up and look more like Discovery Klingons, we're okay.
We haven't... I don't think that we have seen any Klingons in Discovery after... Once they've gone to the year 3000.
Same with... Because this is the first time I've seen a Ferengi in this show, right? Because like when he showed up, I was like examining him, like, oh, what did the Ferengi look like now?
Yeah, and we saw a Ferengi last season in Discovery. So, and they look different. They look different than this even. So, this looks like more classic Ferengi. Updated for sure, but still.
Do you think they're playing a little bit fast and loose, where they're not being too fussy about them matching each other in the shows, and they're just sort of going with it?
I guess so. I mean, you don't really want to change it too much. Like an update's fine, but like you don't want to change it too much since these are all beloved characters rather than like the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did think the Ferengi looked fine in this episode. I did think to myself a little bit, I'm like, I feel like the ears could be bigger. Like, I did have that little.
Well, I mean, obviously he's compensating. That's why he's like the top guy at this thing.
Of course, yeah. That's
the underbelly.
That's why he's got the fur coat and he's looking at all these.
Yeah, he has to compensate because he's got small ears. He's got small lobes. No one wants to Umox that.
Oh dear. Yeah, actually, I think that scene, because I was enjoying him a little bit, but like Rafi trying to convince him that she's not Starfleet basically felt like a big neon sign saying "I am Starfleet" the entire time. It was pretty rough, but
she took the eyeball drugs.
She did, but obviously it was nice to see Worf again, especially since we've not seen Worf like in the show at all yet. Whereas Riker we did see a couple times in season 1, so
yeah,
he's not as much of a surprise.
I'm looking forward to Geordi also.
Yeah, they're saving him. Maybe we'll get him next episode. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll. That was the other thing, is that so the villain gives them an hour, right, to decide to hand over Jack once they're on their. Oh, which reminds me of another little thing that annoyed me. It didn't take them too long to figure it out, but I got annoyed when they're like, "Why can't we beam over?" And I'm like, literally a minute ago, you said you put out transporter dampener things.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. Really?
Well, I'm glad they like figured it out still. Because I was going to be like, if it's some other bullshit reason and not the thing that they set up a minute ago, then I'll be upset.
Yeah, you're going to be pissed. But yeah, so the villain gives them an hour to hand over Riker. Not Riker, sorry. Not Riker.
I'm sure she'll take Riker.
To hand over Jack.
And as a little bonus, put that guy in a doggy bag for me, thank you.
And it's like, okay, so they've got an hour, and Shaw's like, you know what, you can use most of this hour to talk to him and try and get information out of him, because why not? But they don't really figure anything out, and then just at the last minute they came up with this little let's fire and like chase into the nebula so that we can try and lose them, right?
I do love that she's like, do you have anything to say? And he says, engage. I thought that was pretty good.
Of course,
and then they pew, 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 pew.
Of course you did. It was fan servicey. You loved it.
But it was a good use of the engage.
It was okay. I think my thing with this is it kind of like shows the difference between this and Next Gen as a show. Is that I feel like if in Next Gen they have an hour to like solve a problem with this, I feel like
that would be the whole episode.
It would be the whole episode, and it would also result in like Data and Geordi, who admittedly neither of whom are here, but I feel like it would involve them like making some ridiculous engineering device that'll, deflect or blast back at them or something stupid like that,
Yeah, totally.
This felt like, wait, we just thought of this plan that no one's mentioned at the last possible minute, right as the villain's going to make her move. I don't know, it felt like a bit out of nowhere.
I like the name of the ship. It's called the Shrike, which I like for two reasons. Well, it's a bird of prey, right? And then a Shrike is an actual bird, and it's known for taking its prey and putting it on like a thorn and allowing it to die, like by being impaled before it eats it, and as a way to like store it, but also like if some insects are venomous, then like the venom basically becomes null by the time they eat it after it's dead for a while, which I thought is interesting. And the reason that I know about Shrikes is because I've looked it up before, because in the Hyperion Cantos, which is a famous sci-fi book series, the villain in that is called a Shrike, and it's just, or the Angel of Pain. It's just this giant thing. It looks kind of like Sauron, but it's got spikes everywhere and it impales like people on it. So it's kind of like calling, like it's a bird of prey, and it's also calling out another like famous sci-fi series. So I thought that was a really cool use of the word Shrike and calling it that. Anyway, and it's a spiky looking bird of prey.
What a deep cut. Well, I think bird of prey is a nice touch because Romulans and Klingons both use birds of prey, so it's kind of it's like a tradition at this point for. And
this thing's called a firebird, right? Or that's referred to as a firebird, I think. And also, it's a bird, the Shrike. Anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It sounds cool when Amanda Plummer says it.
Yeah. Although her monologue about the name of the ship did go on a bit long, I thought. There's another example of the writers really wanting to like overwrite something rather than just, make it simple. But
I didn't think she talks kind of slow. I didn't think that anything she said really was very lengthy.
I don't know. I mean, needless to say, I'm still very, very, very mixed. Some of it's still, I think Rafi has fast forward like temptation. Like every time there's a Rafi scene this season, it's just like, oh, we're back to this stuff.
Well, that's why it's really a good thing that they paired her up with Worf, because now we can't.
Well, because that's the thing. Now it's like Rafi's just there. Now we're here for Worf. Okay, what's Worf doing?
They know. They know. They have to. She's there because they have to like give her an arc, because it was incomplete as of the last season.
Imagine it was Troy. It showed up at the end of her, like it was Troy and Rafi.
Nice. Yeah, not a lot of interest there.
It's like,
I'm watching because it's part of the overall like what's going on at Starfleet, but.
I sense you're very angry, Rafi. Yeah, no shit, Troy. That's my secret, Troy. I'm always angry. Anyway, so yeah, that's our thoughts on episode 2. I didn't have a ton of thoughts. It was a pretty focused episode, which I do appreciate. The B plot was tedious again with Rafi, but
it's going somewhere though.
I thought it had a bit more of a streamlined feel to it, at least, even if I don't necessarily love all the father-son stuff yet, or whatever. So
yeah,
I hope that I don't keep thinking that Picard's been let away with things because he's the main character for too long. I want it to make sense that he's getting away with what he's getting away with. But hey.
Well, I like that at least this kind of captain will still call out the bullshit of like, you can't just say what you want anymore because you're retired.
Except but he does at the end though, and he just sort of
does, but so there's a little bit of humanity in him. That's all right too. I saw that people in comments were comparing him to Jellicoe, and I thought that was a good comparison.
Yeah, Jellicoe. I think Jellicoe is a better character so far though, because Jellicoe, while he was stern, he didn't come off as comically villainous, at least to begin with, as Shaw did.
No, but you kept waiting for him to become a villain, right? But he was just a different type of captain.
But he never did. I think that's what's good about it. That's what I'm saying here.
Neither is Shaw.
But that's what I'm saying here with Shaw, though, is that because they introduced him like a villain, like it kind of feels like if it feels like they want him to present as a villain so that we're siding with Picard by default. But most of the time, I'm actually no. It seems like Shaw's right and Picard's wrong. But we're supposed to just
honestly,
go with Picard.
I'm sure the writers of the show were like, we need to have a captain that will stand up to Picard and Riker. Like, what if we just do Jellicoe? Because that's what they know, right? What if we make the captain like Jellicoe? Like, Jellicoe wouldn't just do it. Jellicoe captain. Jellicoe captain.
Yeah, but there's a problem though if I stop siding with the main characters so much that I start to like actively not dislike them, but like I wasn't siding with Picard and Riker for a lot of this episode.
I mean, there's part of me that's like, okay, well he's right, but like how are they going to get what they need to do done around that, like his being correct is still an obstacle for our main characters. It doesn't doesn't mean that they have to be, because like.
But I don't think it is though.
No, like Kirk
in this episode.
in the motion picture, like, is wrong. Like he's wrong. He shouldn't be captain of the ship, but he does it anyway because like, and we still side with Kirk in the end. But like
that's true. But in the motion picture, that's clearly his arc, that he is wrong and he has to learn that he's out of touch. Whereas I don't feel like this show, so far anyway, is doing anything where Picard's learning a lesson that he's out of touch and he should let it go. There was that one joke last episode about calling down to the engine room, to be fair, but I don't feel like it's doing an arc with him. Whereas with Kirk, it's like, no, he messes up. He almost gets everyone killed and has to like deal with the fact that he's a screw up now.
Well, the difference is also that whatever Riker and Picard are trying to get to clearly is going to be the thing that the show is going to revolve around, right? For the whole.
That's bad writing.
So.
That's bad writing, though. You're justifying it by saying that's clearly what the show's about. That doesn't justify what any of the.
I'm saying that there's not going to be the same kind of arc, because the arc for Shatner in the motion picture is not like he's getting himself into a position where he's not supposed to, and then he has to learn that he's not the captain anymore.
Exactly. That's why it works.
He's not the best man for the job anymore.
That's why it's an arc. That's why it works. That's why it's good.
Whatever, man. Just let's let the show tell its story, all right, and then we can judge it.
Yeah, but it's not. Look, this is not unfair. We went through season 1 and 2. You know exactly why I am cynical about this.
Yeah, I know. It's okay to be skeptical, but I think cynicism is, a step too far. I think I'm still optimistic about this. Let's just keep this going.
Okay. I've got problems with how they're handling Picard's character again. And I have for most of this show. But we'll leave it there for now. And we'll reconvene with episode 3, in which we find out that someone else is I don't know, who else could have a son by now? Oh, but Jay will see Worf's son. He'll be an adult now.
Alexander?
Yeah, Alexander.
No.
He's going to walk in and Worf's going to go, "This is my son, Alexander the Great." Worf, can't use that. It's been used. Anyway, let us know what you thought of this episode of Picard in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all those things help. Of course, if you want to keep all the content coming, you can go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and support us over there, or you can send us a one-time thing with a super thanks on YouTube. Any and all support is appreciated. We love you loads. Thank you very much for watching. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And do I have a specific outro for these Picard reviews?
Yum yum.
That's a blast from the past. Remember that Section 31 show we're supposed to be getting? I had like a weird moment in this because the Ferengi guy said Section 31 and I'm like, yeah, where's that show? It's in Development Hill, that's where it is.
Are they insinuating that she is Section 31? That's why she's doing this underbelly stuff?
No, he was just listing like branches of, he's like Starfleet, Federation, Section 31. He was just listing. That's fine. Anyway, that's bye everyone.